I'm tracking this food shortage issue that I talked about last month, and things are not looking good for the latter half of 2023. The situation seems to be getting worse. If you're not already stocking your pantry with fall and winter supplies, now is the time to do so. Staple food is going to be in short supply. Americans should start bracing for stockouts and empty shelves once again. By taking action before these shortages spread across the supply chain system, families can ensure they have the necessary supplies to stay self-reliant and independent, even during emergencies and times of crisis.
We're seeing shortages for the most part related to food, all across the US, and this issue is manifesting worldwide, and food supply chains breaking down everywhere.
It's not just a matter of food costing more, it's just not available. But yeah, when you find it, prices are going to be going through the roof. Global food security at crossroads as rice shortages, surging prices hit the most vulnerable. Global food security is already under threat since Russia halted an agreement allowing Ukraine to export wheat, and the El Niño weather phenomenon hampers rice production. Now rice prices are soaring. Vietnam's rice export prices, for instance, have skyrocketed to a 15-year high. The world is at an inflection point, said Bu Damon, a natural resources officer with the UN Food and Agriculture Organization in Bangkok. And 5 grocery shortages you need to know about. Food security has become a buzzword, says this article. Food security is defined when all people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active, healthy life. Unfortunately, over the past several years, there have been an unprecedented number of threats to this, which continue to pop up left and right, affecting all people across the globe. This article mentioned what I talked about last month, shortages of rice. With the world's largest supply coming from Russia and Ukraine, or used to have come from Russia and Ukraine, and damaging weather from Pakistan and China, the world is seeing a whole lot less rice these days.
You have pasta on this list, although I think this can be lumped together with flour. You have the same causes, which is the supply of wheat.
But they say that, and the underlying cause isn't the Russian aggression in Ukraine, it's droughts happening right here in the United States. 2 out of the 3 main varieties of wheat, hard red winter and hard red spring wheat, are primarily grown in the south and central states, an area which has faced extreme dry conditions over the past year. The USDA estimates that an astounding 75% of wheat growing in these regions are currently experiencing drought conditions. And chocolate, who would have thought? Last year, Hershey set off a panic and warned of a possible candy shortage leading into Halloween. But the problem was unique to the chocolate manufacturer, a byproduct of higher demand and supply chain issues. Then they go on to say, but our chocolate woes, I like this here, haven't all melted away quite yet. And this time, the dilemma is much more widespread. Cocoa has become a hot commodity, and Reuters reports that the current prices are the highest they have been in New York in nearly 12 years. And even higher in other parts of the world, including London. Since cocoa is such a fertilizer-dependent crop, the problem again was sparked by the Russian invasion of Ukraine and decreased exports. Droughts have exacerbated the situation, with last year's droughts affecting yields. And on top of that, El Niño seems to be threatening even more. The El Niño phenomenon tends to cause drier weather conditions throughout West Africa. This includes areas of Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, and the Ivory Coast, which altogether are about 75% of the world's cocoa production. But it's not just limited to what I'm listing here. The dairy industry has production issues due to a low supply of cows. Fish and salmon are in low supply due to El Niño-like events. Cooking oils, the palm export ban, and other global supply chain issues related to oils. Also sugar supply chain problems. But as you can imagine, all this affects everything from cereals to potato chips to rice cakes to bakery items to popcorn. My point is that if we have a sugar problem and a wheat problem and a dairy problem and a rice problem, imagine all the products that are made out of all these items. And you know, a lot of people refer to the times that we're going through right now as the beginning of another Great Depression. And there were food shortages during the Great Depression, but the situation was somewhat paradoxical. The problem didn't exactly come from the absence of food, but from people's inability to afford it. So first, during the Great Depression, people could no longer afford to buy food, and that led to surpluses. Then, because of all these surpluses, combined with reduced consumer purchasing power, food prices began to plummet. While this might sound like a good thing, it was catastrophic for farmers. The prices were so low that many farmers couldn't recoup the cost of production. Then, with the farmers' inability to sell their products at a profit, some farmers, in desperation, destroyed their crops or let their food rot. This was done to reduce surplus and try to drive prices up. And this, get this, the situation was exacerbated by the mid-1930s Dust Bowl, a severe drought that affected the southern plains states. This ecological disaster led to actual shortages in the affected areas, where crops died and farming became nearly impossible. So like, holy guacamole, at least that part's happening right now. But I might argue that this might be worse than that situation in the Great Depression. You see, then they had the ability to produce food and have a surplus, even though they chose to destroy their surplus. But the issue we're seeing now is, forget about surplus, farmers can't even produce enough to keep up with normal demand. And this is globally, not just in the States, across almost every country in the world. They keep trying, but shite keeps happening. But it's also crucial that we focus on how each one of us can adapt and prepare. No matter the circumstances, there's power in preparedness. Firstly, diversify your food sources. Don't rely on big chain supermarkets. Local farmers markets, community-supported agriculture programs, and even neighborhood gardens can be the source of fresh and varied produce. By supporting these alternatives, not only do you secure more food avenues for yourself, but you strengthen your community. Next, consider growing some of your own food. You'd be surprised what can thrive in small gardens or even balcony pots. I once had a lettuce grow. It's pretty awesome if you want to invest in something like that. But if not, you can still do it in pots. Herbs, tomatoes, greens, all can be a great start. It's not just about the food, it's about the empowerment and independence you feel when you eat something that you've grown yourself. Third, understand the value of preservation. Learn canning, drying, and freezing techniques. Preserved foods can last for months or even years, ensuring that you've got supplies when fresh ones might be scarce. And remember, it's not just about stocking up, but also being smart with consumption. Reducing waste and understanding how to use every part of the food you buy, like making broth from leftover bones, etc., goes a long way to maximizing your money and your resources. Remember, preparation paves the way for a more secure tomorrow. I'm Code Monkey Mike, software guy who loves to talk about finance, or in this case, food. Hit that subscribe button if you like content like this, and hit like and share and comment below, etc., etc. Dude, I'm getting throttled by the algorithm recently, and I don't know why, so any support you can give will be much appreciated.